Hello friends, welcome to MOOC online course on Buddhist tourism. I am Srikant Ganvir. I am currently working as a assistant professor in the Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Deccan College, Postgraduate and Research Institute deemed to be University Pune. The script of this module is written by Dr. Tanashri Reddy, Assistant Professor, Amruta Darshanam, Amruta Vishwavidyapitam, Bengaluru. I will be talking about the magnificent Buddhist monastic site of Amaravati located in Andhra Pradesh. The objective of this module is to present an introduction to the famous Buddhist site at Amaravati and its architectural and art historical features as well as religio-cultural significance. Let us have a look at historical background of the region. The introduction of Buddhism in the Deccan region goes back to the time of the Buddha based on the textual sources. The border regions of Marathwada, that is the part of Maharashtra, and Telangana seems to be region where Buddhism reached during the lifetime of the Buddha. The story of Bauri and his disciples is a mention in the Buddhist text Sutta Nipata, one of the early Buddhist texts that furnishes information that the disciples of Bauri, after becoming members of Buddhist Sangha, came back to the region of Godavari river and had established a Buddhist monastery. This is how Buddhism was introduced to the region of Andhra Desha. The site of Amaravati provides important evidence of its establishment from the 3rd-2nd centuries before Common Era and continued till the early medieval period as an active center of Buddhism. From the 2nd-1st centuries before Common Era, the region of Andhra Pradesh witnessed the continuous expansion of Buddhism till the 3rd-4th century CE. In the process of expansion of Buddhism in the region, the Buddhist site of Amaravati played a seminal role, not only in the dissemination of teachings of the Buddha, that is Dhamma, as propounded by the Buddha, but also in the providing a model of Buddhist architecture and visual art. It is fascinating to see the journey of making of the Buddhist site Amaravati. Now let us have a brief introduction to cultural landscape, location of Amaravati. Located in Lower Krishna Valley at Amaravati village, Palanadu district, Andhra Pradesh, India, is the most remarkable example of Buddhist architecture. The site is currently under the protection of the Archaeological Survey of India. It was disturbed site since the beginning and had the remains of Buddhist stupa. So far, excavations and unexpected finds have revealed over 500 pieces of sculptures, some 300 inscriptions, numerous pottery fragments and coins and other archaeological objects. The important sculptures and other excavated material from the site are now in some museums in India and abroad. Many are considerably damaged. The primary collection is in the Government Museum Chennai, Amaravati Archaeological Site Museum and British Museum London. Harley has stated correctly in his book The Art and Architecture of Indian Subcontinent, quote, like other major early Indian stupas, but to an unusual extent, the Amaravati sculptures include several representations of the stupa itself, which, although they differ partly reflecting the different stages of building, give a good idea of its original appearance when it was for some time the greatest monument in Buddhist Asia and the jewel in the crown of early Indian art. The name of the site as well as stupa Amaravati is relatively modern and mainly based on the local temple here. The oldest maps and plans drawn by Mackenzie in 1860 label the stupa as a Dipaladinna, translated as the Hill of Lights. The monument was called as a Mahachaitya in the ancient inscriptions. Sri Lankan and Thai inscriptions mentions Dhanyakataka as well as Tibetan account of Dhanyakataka as an esoteric Buddhist center. Amravati or Dharnakatak was known as an important Buddhist center. Let us have a look at the history of discovery of the site and early archaeological investigations. Raja Vesareddy Naidu, a local zamindar, was the first to notice the site while searching for building materials for his new house in Amravati. Having heard about the discovery of the ancient remains by local Colonel Mackenzie, a member of the Madras engineers and later the first Surveyor General of India, briefly visited Amravati in 1798. In 1816, Mackenzie started a more intensive survey at Amravati. By then, the stupa had already been destroyed, but Mackenzie's team made detailed records of conditions of the site and the exposed sculptures. In 1845, Walter Elliot, the commissioner of Guntur, visited Amravati and undertook an excavation. In a few months' mission, he collected many sculptures from the stupa and sent them to Madras. J.S.C. Boswell made a report describing the Dipaladinna mound and recommended further research to understand the rich potential of the site. In 1880, the Duke of Buckingham, the then governor of Madras, suddenly ordered the excavation to be completed immediately. On the receipt of the order, J.G. Horsfall, the collector of the Krishna district, started excavation on 16 February 1880. In December 1881, the Madras government ordered James Burgess to inspect Amravati. While he was shocked to see that the previous excavations had converted the stupa site into a large pit, he collected primary data from 255 pieces of sculpture unearthed by Horsfall. He selected 175 fine pieces and arranged to send them to Madras immediately. After Burgess' survey, the idea of restoring the site's original architectural context was entirely lost. The remaining task was to confirm the site's dimension and collect as many as remaining sculptures as possible. In April 1888 and February 1889, Alexander re-excavated around the west, east and south gateways and other mounds near the stupa. In 1890 and 1891, the excavated pieces by Ree and the remaining pieces found by Horsfall and Burgess, totaling 191, were sent to Madras. Let us have a look at architectural reconstruction of Amravati Mahastupa. Several attempts have been made to understand the stupa's architectural features. In the early 19th century, when the ancient Buddhist architecture in the subcontinent had not yet been extensively studied, Mackenzie revealed two concentric circles of sculptures surrounding the monument. He had used the terminologies outer and inner rails, but he guessed impressively that the monument was used for religious worship by different sects from the Hindus of contemporary period. Walter Elliot seems to have noticed that the sculpture carved on drum slabs resemble Buddhist stupa and formed an idea that the shape of the building seemed to be correspond to the sculptural representation. Based on his idea and the actual measurements of the slabs and mounds, he made the first elevation plan of the monument. In 1868, James Ferguson proposed his monument plan in his catalogue of Amravati sculptures. He rightly pointed out that the monument was a Buddhist stupa. Sewell carefully studied Mackenzie's drawings and noticed a massive masonry wall 8 feet in width, which seems to be run around the entire mound. He surmised that the wall formed the stupa's base and concluded that the mound was occupied by the large single stupa surrounded by double rails. Later Sewell revised the idea that the inner rail of the above two rails was not a rail but consisted of the lower drum of the stupa. Further, excavations at Amravati and other stupa sites such as Gumadiduru and Nagarjunkonda confirmed Sewell's idea. The basic shape of the stupa was thus eventually fixed. Even after this, the debates about the precise shape of the stupa continued. In 1932, de Broglie proposed a further detailed plan of the stupa and argued that based on the height of the drum slabs, the stupa drum was about man's height. In 1945, Percy Brown presented a different idea about this point based on the appearance of the stupa represented in the reliefs. He conjectured that the stupa had a lofty appearance with a very high drum and dome. In opposition to Brown's idea, Douglas Barrett proposed his own stupa reconstruction in 1954. In his new catalogue of the Amravati collection in the British Museum, Robert Knox has proposed a reconstruction plan that slightly modifies Barrett's plan.